Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and it's time to look ahead to the waiver wire for Week 9 of the NFL. Short form version with my good pal, of course, Jake Ciely from The Athletic, who, as you can tell here on the YouTube channel, it's been a rough season here in fantasy. In fact, sometimes it requires a helmet or, in Jake's case, a Halo helmet. So it's taken its toll. Fantasy football does feel a lot like a battlefield nowadays, Jake Ciely. How are you holding up here in your Halo mask here as we approach the spooky time of year, not just in fantasy football, but in real life?
I'm holding up well. The whole thing's going to sound echoey. Happy Halloween week, but the better costumes on Thursday. We had to do something for today. Well, I had to do something. I thought you'd come dressed up too. I guess you're having a better week than I am.
You know what? I mean, look, we can always... I am the carrot top of...
There we go.
Fantasy Pros here. I've always got lots of things around here. I don't know if the mustache will stick, but here we go. It's me, Joey P. I'm back again for the Mario. The problem is the more I talk, the more this mustache starts to fall apart, and then the audio guys will get mad at me. So I'll just leave the hat on here for now.
Well, they're already going to be mad at me.
Well, they already pissed at you, but that's okay. I'm... you still work for The Athletic. I still work here. So, I have more people to answer for. All right, let's talk about what's going on here. Obviously, Oronde Gadsden, one of the guys we talked about last week, had a huge week. So I just want to touch on that again. If he's still available in leagues, you got to grab this guy. It was a 2-week strong trend. I don't know what people were waiting for this week, but apparently still some people did not pick him up. But Gadsden, another terrific performance. And I think you're seeing an evolution there in this offense, and that is going to be very important for them because there's no guarantees when Murray and Hampton comes back to that it just solves every problem that they had. But Vidal was good again, and Gadsden looking like he is a guy that's going to continue to work in this offense. He's got a little bit more wide receiver in him than tight end. Yep. He's more in that Antonio Gatesy kind of vibe right now where we're at, and I think that's a great thing for fantasy.
I do too. I actually compared him to a smash up between Mark Andrews and Kellen Winslow in the draft process. So I called him Mark Winslow, which sounds like he should have been on.
The Winslow comp is a really good one. I actually really like that comp. Yeah.
Plus, it sounds Mark Winslow like he was like the distant cousins that never showed up on Family Matters. Like he sounds like he should have been there.
It's a good question.
I don't know. But the point being here is like, I want to caution everybody. Like, I agree with you. He's top 10. Go get him. You can start him every single week. But the biggest part I want to say about that is I'm sure you'll agree. Start him every single week. If he goes out and gets 2 for 30 next week, keep him in the lineup the week after because it's the Chargers. We already saw Ladd McConkey fell off at the beginning of the season, and then it was Keenan Allen's turn, and now it's Quentin Johnston's turn. At some point, Gadsden's going to fall off and have a disappointing game or two because he's not going Herbert, he's not going to support 4 guys every single week. It's just not going to happen. He's not going to go out and throw 55 touchdowns and 6,000 yards for the rest of the season. So you have to understand, yes, Gadsden, it's not mutually exclusive to say Gadsden's the top 10 tight end, but also be prepared for potentially he's going to have some disappointing games.
All right. By the way, I just want to point this out here. The mask actually makes you sound kind of, robot-ish X. So it's like, I think for people even just listening on the podcast version, they can kind of just get the mental picture of you in the Halo mask. It actually kind of works. All right. Let's talk about the obvious guy here too, Tyrone Tracy, because Cam Scadaboo, I mean, we can't have fun apparently in 2025. No. It's not fun. It's not fun. I mean, it's a little fun, but it's not as much fun as it should be. Cam Scadaboo made it fun. And now Tyrone Tracy is up next. And Tyrone Tracy, I think we know what he is. But what he's going to be now is the lead back there. I don't know if you see Devin Singletary getting some work too, but it certainly feels like at this point, Tyrone Tracy is an automatic, number 1 out of the week just based on volume. Would you agree with that sentiment?
100%. And he's not going to be a top 12 running back. He'll be what he was similar to last year. Devin Singletary get mixed in at times because they're not just going to give Tyrone Tracy 90% of the workload. But on this team with Jackson Dart, and there's going to be some struggles as we saw against the Eagles yesterday, he's still an RB2, which means at this point of the season for an RB2, for people out there to say, like, I still have blank in my budget, how much, this is 100% of your fab, this is number 1 waiver priority if he's somehow out there. And it's also a cautionary tale. We'll bring up some bonus players at the end, but again, cautionary tale, like, don't forget, these guys at this point of the season, I understand we just went through Buymageddon, Buymapocalypse, whatever you want to call it, but now we're past it. They need to be on rosters because all it takes is one injury like this and that next guy is up.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to some more guys on the list here. So with Tyjae Spears of the Tennessee Titans. Not a lot of his working for the Titans this year. It's it's just kind of brutal. So why is Tyjae? I mean, if Tracy is the no-brainer number one. Why is he the 1A this week to talk about?
Because he already first of all had more yards over the past few games than Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard's just And the fact is, we saw him get a lot more work when trailing. Well, don't we expect the Titans to basically be trailing every game at this point? So if you're talking about a 50-50 split with the pass game upside and the upside of Spears versus Pollard at this point, Tyjae Spears is an RB3 because he plays for the Titans and he is sharing some with Tony Pollard. And if by all means they shock us and somehow have a lead one of these weeks, it will be more Tony Pollard. But on that off chance, he's at least an RB3 again when people are chasing running backs. So put it this way, Joe, just coming up week, Bam Knight versus Tyjae Spears coming off the bye, that being Bam, I'd have a hard conversation in my own mind of being like, I'd probably go Spears for the upside.
Well, Spears also worked in the passing game a little bit, 3 for 23. He had the touchdown yesterday too. What's funny is Pollard and Spears combined yardage totals. Let's see, can you even add in, you can even add in the passing, all their work, still less than Jonathan Taylor's rushing total. So just kind of putting you,
I'll go back and look at the tweet of this stud lineup I put together yesterday that scored less than Jonathan Taylor combined.
It's just crazy, man. Jonathan Taylor's just getting it. And the Colts are for real. That was my big takeaway on Out of Bounds last week. I was like, you know what? They're not just good. They're like NFL good. They're not just AFC South good. I think that's a different standard. Like, oh, they're good for the AFC South. Like, oh, you're adorable, but now I think we're in a place where you start to look at the Colts and, they've done a good job on defense. I know it was the Titans yesterday, but they really started to come around here. Also coming around, Troy Franklin, big day for him. Now, again, context matters and there was the Dallas secondary, which is the absolute worst, but Troy Franklin had himself a day yesterday, 6 catches for 89 and 2 touchdowns. Question is, how aggressive are we going after this? Because we do have to put in context that it was against a 32nd ranked defense there in the league.
Well, that's part of it. Part of it is we do this not talking about the bigger names that people already rostered if they're watching us or assume that they are. So we're going a little bit deeper. And some people might say Troy Franklin's not deep enough. But the big thing coming away here is he's been the 2 the entire year. Similar to your boy, Kayshon Boutte, he's been the 1 or 2 for the Patriots the entire year. It hasn't hit all the time, but the bigger thing coming out of this too is Marvin Mims got hurt. So it helps just clear things up. And I know Mims was out there about 50% of the time of what Troy Franklin was out there, but it just helps clear things up. That big playability, he won't face the Cowboys every single week, but as a wide receiver 4, very similar to Kayshon Boutte, like the big play, you look for the touchdown, and you just kind of keep those guys in your lineup because you don't want to miss the good games, and that's the kind of wide receiver you expect. So this isn't like blow your fab, go nuts for Troy Franklin, but he's worth considering if you need help.
Yeah, I mean, and all these guys we're talking about, Tyrone Tracy is only 35% rostered right now. Tyjae Spears, 46% rostered on Sleeper, and Sleeper's usually the highest in terms of roster percentage you're going to find. And Troy Franklin, 33% rostered. So these guys are more readily available in leagues than people realize. I'll talk about Devin Neal, another guy to discuss here with Kendre Miller out. Obviously, Devin Neal has more potential going forward. We don't think they're going to trade Chimere, but you never know. The next week or so is going to be really interesting. I do think there's going to be a ton of movement in the NFL. That trade deadline is getting much hotter every single year. So why is Devin Neal somebody that people should be looking at to add in week 9?
Even if not traded for Calvin Kamara, you got to figure that the Saints are probably going to start evaluating Devin Neal, who there was a lot of people on this network, myself included, that thought like, hey, he could be at least a timeshare piece in the NFL. And you saw that yesterday. He got more work in the second half. Part of it was Kamara also got banged up, and there's talk about the fact that it's the same injury he's been dealing with, or is a new one on top of things, soft tissue. So whether or not Kamara is with this team, Devin Neal can at least get into the conversation of what Kendre Miller was doing. And in deeper leagues as an RB3, somebody who's, again, they saw more work when they were trailing, which was interesting because you would say, hey, maybe Alvin Kamara, passing game. But as we've seen with Kellen Moore, he mutes the passing game for running backs. He's done it with every team he's been with, and now he's done it with Alvin Kamara. So Devin Neal is an RB3 if you need some help. He'd probably be in the conversation most weeks of like, until, to go back to the Cardinals conversation, until Trey Benson's back in that Michael Carter role on the Saints.
All right, next guy on our list to talk about, Mason Taylor, who finally had his first touchdown reception of the year, but it wasn't from Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor. It was from Breece Hall. How about them apples, everybody? I guess you didn't see that coming in week 8. Now, did you? 5 catches on 8 targets. It will, again, great matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals. We know they're the worst in the league against tight ends. So, again, context matters here quite a bit. But Mason Taylor's been a guy we've talked about in other waiver wire programs here on the channel, and even on this one, too, we've talked about. So was yesterday a turning point for Justin Fields and the Jets, or just a blip on the radar where they snuck out a victory against a really bad Cincinnati defensive team?
Well, I mean, can it be both? I mean, a turning point in the fact that like it looked like the best offense they've had pretty much this entire year. And Justin Fields, you feel good for him after hearing the story about crying in the closet and everything like that. But at the same time, we know Justin Fields, he's still going to be inconsistent. But the one thing that will be consistent, I know it was without Garrett Wilson, but as we've seen, they need options. And Mason Taylor, we've been talking about this entire year, is potentially the number 2. And it's taken time. He's a rookie tight end, but he's developed, and now he is the number 2. He has been the number 2. Yesterday, he was essentially the number 1, but Josh Reynolds is on the IR. So it just secures the fact that Taylor's going to be 2. But when Justin Fields has his 10-attempt terrible game, you have to understand the downside. But I would say Mason Taylor's a fringe tight end 1 for the rest of the season at this point.
All right, last guy we're going to talk about, the Chimere Dike, who is a guy that we talked about in last week's Waiver Wire pod here. We do have a couple bonus guys, just want to throw out Jake, but this is the last of kind of the big 5 or 6 to talk about here today. Dike, another guy that, once again, we talked about the Tennessee Titans and the limitations that they have, but it seems like with Calvin Ridley's season feeling all but lost for fantasy managers, Dike might be kind of a guy that's sneaking up on people, and again, not one that's sneaking up onto rosters.
No, that was interesting. We kind of threw him out as like, hey, remember him as long as Ridley's out. Lockett's gone. Now with the Raiders, they released him and he signed with the Raiders. So there's a clear path here. The interesting thing is going to be that he's the more short to intermediate game. I.E. Manner's more downfield. Cam Ward has a great arm and he's getting some shots downfield. But as seen, the Titans still don't always give him that opportunity, which means in games like yesterday where you can see like volume for Dike, obviously if Ridley does come back, this is going to hamper things. But I think that Calvin Ridley at this point would just kind of make it kind of a cluster, unfortunately. But you would still have the appeal of Ridley is going to be more downfield than, and just like I.E. Manner, than Dike. Dike similar, like, granted, he might only be out there in 3 wide receiver sets if Ridley is back, but he's going to absorb that short to intermediate where Cam Ward doesn't have time. And that's the appeal here, is that hopefully, as you said, that Ridley is either a lost season or on another team, and that either way, the volume is just going to be there because of how the Titans offense is struggling to give Ward any time, any given week.
All right, bonus tracks here on the program today. Saquon Barkley did have a groin issue. They said he could have probably gone back in the game. We'll see. I mean, they do have, still their bye ahead of them. So, that's interesting. So I don't know if Tank Bigsby is somebody you want to stash. Isaiah Davis of the Jets is a guy that I know we've talked about quite a bit too.
Last week.
Davis is a player, that with Breece Hall potentially still in the trading block, coming off a huge game. If that wasn't an audition to get me off the Jets, I don't know what was. It was a tremendous performance by him, but it's also what the Jets were supposed to be, a team that, goes out there, runs the football, some more, no matter what the score is. And when you get away from that, you lose your identity a little bit. And then Dylan Sampson of the Cleveland Browns, another guy worth discussing. I know we talked about him on the long form waiver wire pod that you can watch here on the channel as well. So talk to me about these 3 guys in particular to what the value of Bigsby, Davis, and Sampson are going forward.
The warning shot, as you can tell, is starting to fog up. I don't know how Master Chief does it.
We couldn't see the fog, but there you go. So, Jake, just for the record, you made it 13 minutes in the mask.
I made it 13 minutes? Hey, I made it through I've done an entire episode with the Ant-Man and the Darth Vader. I did an entire, you'll remember this. We were working at the same company. I did an entire episode with the Batman voice and couldn't talk the next day because that was a really bad decision to do an hour podcast with the Batman voice.
Well, I did the Thanos mask for a whole show once, which was a good time. And I just eliminated fantasy players, which was fun. But the only one I stay in character for was the couple years that I did the Dr. Evil stuff here on the channel, which mostly everybody enjoys. But there's always people who are like, why did you have to do it the whole hour? I'm like, because I'm a trained actor and I commit to the role. That's the answer. Jake not trained, which is why he gave up after 13 minutes. Just to put.
I would have kept going if I could have seen through it. I don't know how Master Chief does it. You can't see through the mask. Anyway, this is a testament to, like I said, before with not Tank Bigsby. I was gonna say, I got all tied up with this now. Tyrone Tracy of these backups. We talked about Isaiah Davis last week, and not just because of the trade, because if Breece Hall gets hurt, boom, you saw what Isaiah Davis did in his timeshare. Tank Bigsby, you brought it up. Like, Bigsby aside, we weren't sure that he was the next man up, but they made that clear yesterday. So if anything were to happen, Barkley's injury carries through the bye, and then all of a sudden he's out for week 10. That's something to monitor. And then who else do we have on this list? Oh, Dylan Sampson, because unfortunately they're on a bye, so we're not going to get a lot of news. But as we've seen before, if the situation with Judkins is he's out, he's going to split with Jerome Ford, that being Sampson, but there's more upside with Sampson, especially in the passing game. So again, all these guys are basically at this point of the season if you're holding on to a 5th or 6th wide receiver. You don't need a second tight end at this point.
No,
like these running backs need to be rostered everywhere.
Or a second QB too. Sometimes I see people who are like, I've got Dak Prescott and Josh Allen. I keep saying, why? Why do you have them? Like you need
or Daniel Jones and like Sam Darnold. And I'm like, what? No, stop.
Yeah. It's like the Spider-Man meme. They just pointed at each other, those two guys. But of course, if you need more help, we've got the tools for Waiver Central. You're under there somewhere. Waiver Central is under there too. It's actually easy to find. It's on the Fantasy Pros app. Just download it today or go to fantasypros.com/myplaybook. And if you're looking to snag the potential difference makers in fantasy this week, Waiver Central is the tool to help you find all that. Of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel too. Drop your comments below and never miss a piece of content on the channel here. Ring the bell till it goes ding. Subscribe to Fantasy Pros. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For me, Super Mario, huh? It's me, and of course, it's the Halo guy. We'll see you next time, kids.